Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kazovitz have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Proof of Love. We've got a lot of questions and maybe some answers for you today. I'm joined today with Stephanie Murphy. Hey, Steph.
Hi, Tatiana. I'm so excited to do a Q&A show with you.
I know, me too. And I should have probably put in your doctor part because we're going to be talking about some medical questions. We'll be calling upon that expertise. We may also loop Lauren in on this episode, so keep an ear out for her. But why don't we get started? Before we do, I just want to say thank you to our sponsor, Crypto Media Hub. You can also listen to our other sister podcast called the TatianaShow.com, and that's on Tuesdays on LTB. And yeah, let's get started. So the first question is written in from a listener, and what she says is, I guess it's a she, I guess it'd be a he. I was going out with a guy and it seemed like everything was going great, but he ghosted me at the holidays. He didn't write back. What's the best way to handle it? How can I get closure? Everything seemed fine and I'm totally confused and very hurt.
Aw, well, that sucks to hear.
I know. That's like the worst.
We have talked about ghosting on the show before, so I recommend that you go back in our archives and listen to the Proof of Love about ghosting that we did with Lauren, but we can certainly talk about it again. Okay, so it sounds like this person is resigned that the relationship is over because they said, how can I get closure? So I would say that, sometimes you can't get closure. And what does closure really mean, right? Does it mean a final conversation where they say, yeah, just in case you didn't figure it out by my silence, I don't want to be in a relationship with you.
Right. But what went wrong? What happened? That's the thing. How can you don't get closure? And I had some very unresolved endings to relationships and people are like, well, sometimes you don't get closure. But I mean, it's only natural to be curious. Is there anything that you can even do to rustle them around? I mean, they're ignoring you, but how could you not wonder? Maybe they got hit by a bus. Maybe their ex-girlfriend came back. They have an unexpected child. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, well, that's true. But first of all, if someone ghosts you, I would say that first of all, realize that they actually did you a favor in the long run. They removed themselves from your life and they showed that they're unreliable and they can't be committed to keeping in touch with you, or they can't even be trusted to have an adult conversation with you about why they want to end the relationship. So first of all, know that they've done you a favor. That will help you get closure, because if you can stop liking this person so much, then that's step one to getting over them. Now, as far as closure goes, when some people say they want closure, they mean they want the person to come back to them and say, oh, sorry, and then they have an excuse or explain it away. That really doesn't happen very often. Sometimes people ghost and then they pop back up later. We talked about that on our ghosting show. So that could happen, but if they pop back up, they're going to have some explaining to do. Why did they disappear? That's not okay. And if you take them back after they pop back up after ghosting, then that's communicating to them, you can do this to me and I'll keep talking to you after that. So they're not going to get the message that hurts and that's not okay with you. So think about what is going to happen if they pop back up, and whether you want to accept them back into your life and maybe start a cycle where they keep doing this over and over. Now, as far as why did they ghost? Why did they want to break up with you? That's always an interesting question. I would say that nobody owes you an explanation about why they broke up with you. And that can be really hard to accept because you want to just know why. What happened, right? If you knew what happened, maybe it would help you move on. But sometimes they don't want to tell you for whatever reason. And that reason may have nothing to do with you personally. Some people don't want to tell the person they're breaking up with why they're breaking up with them, or they don't even want to say directly, I want to break up with you, because they learned in their past relationships, that wasn't safe, because their past partners would get very angry or would get very sad and they couldn't handle that. It makes them so uncomfortable. And so they don't break up with people directly. They do things like ghosting. Or they say like, oh, well, maybe we can get together. And then they just never respond.
Those people are evil. I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, I get it if you're like a woman and you're worried the man's going to beat you up or something like that. I'm thinking about random dudes that ghost chicks and chicks that randomly ghost guys. And I mean, I appreciate, oh, they're damaged. You're a piece of crap if you go out with somebody and you don't give them any kind of reason and you literally just stop talking to them. Sorry, I had to interject there just because I thought that that was really awful. I don't know. I think it's such a selfish, nasty thing to do. And I mean, are you making an excuse for a ghoster?
I'm saying that we can have compassion for some ghosters because there's a reason they're doing that. They learned in the past that it was not safe to say no to somebody directly, and they're trying to figure that out. Now, I know that I've struggled with this in the past, and so I can have compassion for someone else who also struggles with the same thing, and hopefully they figure it out eventually. But, you know, I wouldn't say that they are a piece of crap. There's always a reason why somebody does this. And if the reason is nothing other than that they're lazy or selfish or they just don't care enough, then fine. They did you a favor. They removed themselves from your life. When someone tells you who they are like that, listen to them. So that's my opinion on it. Now, as far as getting feedback on why you were broken up with, a lot of people say that they want this, but do they really want it? Right? Because you could get feedback by talking to any of your exes who you are still in contact with, right? You might be able to go to an ex and say, hey, why did you break up with me? Right? And, you know, can you even trust them to be honest about that? Are they going to tell you the truth? And do you really want to hear the truth? Right? Because it could be hurtful. And it could also just be one person's opinion. You know, you weren't the right person for me. That's why I broke up with you. Does that help you in any way? No, I don't really think so. So
I think it shows respect for what you shared with that person. It's just like saying, no, I'm not going to answer the phone today. Bleh. And then that you're just eliminated from someone's life as if you had never been there before. I think it's horrifying. I mean,
do you think someone owes you an explanation?
Terrible way of treating someone. Yes.
Do you think someone owes you an explanation?
I think it's the decent thing to do. I think it's about decency. And if you share something with someone and you don't do anything wild and crazy, like cheat on them or beat them or do something really bad, then yes, I think that it's the honorable thing to do, even if it's a difficult conversation, because I think that that's 100% part of almost like the social contract when you're dating someone. I think to try and treat that person with decency, even in the end, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it puts you out slightly, I think is absolutely part of behaving in an honorable way. I think it's disgusting to do otherwise, unless you have a really good reason. And I don't think that there is a good reason. I have yet to hear one.
And is it a good enough explanation of why they broke up with you to say, it just wasn't working out for me? Does it have to be more specific?
That's not ghosting somebody. No, I think that if they say, I'm sorry, this just wasn't working out for me, is much better than just no reply and just completely going ghost. Mm-hmm. I think that would also be just a couple steps better than that. But yeah, I think that they have to say, listen, you know, I mean, how hard is it to say to somebody, listen, I've been thinking and I don't think that this is a really good fit. I'm going to take some time for myself. I think you're a great person, and move on with their life. Maybe you don't put that part at the end, but something, I mean, it's almost like I feel like you're talking about it from the perspective of an abused woman who, you know, is afraid that the guy's going to go psycho and break her neck and she doesn't owe him anything. But I'm just thinking more in a traditional dating sense. And I think that people do this to each other all the time. And I mean, you're welcome to represent yourself at all, but I want to be clear that I don't think that that's appropriate dating behavior. I think that's really vile. And I mean, you better have a damn good reason to ghost somebody, especially, you know, if you've been dating them for a while, to just go dark. I don't think that's right.
Well, I think a lot of people do experience kind of abusive behavior when they're dating, and it comes from all genders, all sides, all types of relationships. I mean, have you ever seen a situation where, you know, for example, a man is breaking up with a woman, just to give a counterexample to what you said I was talking about. A man's breaking up with a woman and he's like, you know, listen, I don't think we should see each other anymore. This isn't working out for me. And she says, why? What's wrong? Am I not pretty enough for you? Is she prettier than me? And she starts to get really angry. I mean, that can be a very difficult, uncomfortable situation to be in.
I don't think that I give a shit. I'm sorry, but like, whatever. You were sleeping with the person. I'm sure that you've had uncomfortable things happen. You should screw responsibly and understand that sometimes that comes with emotion. Now, I understand, I'm not saying the woman should call him 50 million times and go bananas, but in the case of the writing person, the person who wrote in, it sounds like they were just flat out ghosted. So that's one range. So yeah, I mean, I think that dating is messy. People owe each other the respect of a conversation. If the conversation gets crazy and it becomes too much for one person to bear, then they should then bow out of it. But I don't know. I think that any other kind of behavior is just dishonorable. I maintain my position. Sorry.
All right, so screw responsibly. Now, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Would you rather be ghosted, or would you rather hear a harsh truth like, I'm just not attracted to you?
I think that a harsh truth is more valuable, but the problem with that is then you're assuming that that person knows a truth about you, and you have to weigh their judgment of you with an appropriate hand. I don't think that people that date you always know you. They may know something that they see through their own prism or through their own prejudice. So yeah, I mean, I don't really think I'm supposed to be insulated from some kind of an unpleasant conversation. I think it's just about being honest and being honorable by being honest with the person. And, you don't have to say, I don't think you're attractive, you look disgusting. You know what I mean? You can just say to them something in a relatively, the point is that both people should have good intentions toward the other person. Like, you shouldn't want to hurt the other person. You shouldn't be telling them something because you're pissed and you're angry and you want to be hurtful. I don't know. I just think you should say, if you're going to give them a criticism, it should be from a healthy place and that person can take it or leave it. And I don't recommend that you always listen to the people that you date. Some people are not worth listening to and some people might be. So, you can't just externalize your value by accepting what somebody else says about you either.
All right. Well, I like that advice too. I think you have to take what people say with a grain of salt, but I'm here to stand up for the ghosters a little bit and say that there are some situations where it's really difficult to tell someone directly, especially if they're not really receptive to what you have to say or they're not taking no for an answer. Then I would say it's really not worthwhile to try to have a conversation with them and explain why you're breaking up with them because they're not listening to you.
Okay. Also, for the record, ghosting is not even telling the person that you're not going to talk to them anymore, which I think is even worse because then you could just say, I never want to talk to you again. And then that's still not considered ghosting. You're still less of a bad person than a ghoster. Ghoster can send one message and then block you. And I mean, rather like that would be better in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because then you could block them and then you don't have to talk to them anymore. But at least you've told them you'd be better than a ghoster. Because in the ghosting situation, the person has to wait a few days or like, it's almost like a slow, painful death because you're like, well, that's weird. Oh no, nothing's wrong. Oh, And then all of a sudden, it dawns on you, wait a second, am I being ghosted? And then, you know what I mean? That just it seems so cruel. Ugh, oh, no. Anyway.
All right. Well, don't ghost Tatiana.
Or anybody. It's not just me. Be a decent human being. I can't imagine treating somebody with such like disregard as a human being. I think it's just crap. I mean, what does it even give them? It proves nothing. It proves that they're like an animal and they're uncivilized in their interactions with other human beings.
Well,
I mean, I can't even think of I don't think I've actually gotten ghosted. Oh, wait, no. With that one, well, that was a whole big thing. But I mean, I can't think of anybody else who's ghosted me, but it's possible. The point is I just think it's such a vile way to treat somebody. Oh, terrible. It's very disrespectful.
Yeah, I hear that. I get that you think it's bad. I think everybody
really
gets that.
Belaboring that point, but
everybody gets that Tatiana thinks it's bad to ghost. But I would say what I've learned from being ghosted, because it has happened to me before, what I've learned from being ghosted is that sometimes people tell you things with their actions rather than their words. And the actions are the most important thing to pay attention to. I sometimes tend to take people at their word. Like I listen to what they say more than what they do. And that's kind of a mistake. You really got to pay attention to the actions because they do speak louder than words. And if someone doesn't want to talk to me, okay, their loss. I'm really interesting and cool. I mean, what can I say? I've got plenty of other people to choose from that I can talk to. So.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so no ghosters. Steph has a maybe ghost policy. We'll see if we can make any changes.
Compassionate
to that in the
ghosting.
Compassionate ghosting. Jesus Christ. That could be a thing. Okay.
So
cool.
What about couples therapy?
Okay. So I think we are going to agree on this one. Basically, I've have a few different friends where this has come up for them. And I start thinking of it as a more broad indication of whether or not a couple will make it. So, I know people in varying levels of their relationship and, they're in couples, right? They're not just, dating vaguely. And the man is not willing to go to therapy and the women want to go. And while I don't think that actual formal therapy is the only thing applicable, it made me think that if you have a partner that will not work on the relationship with you in like some kind of a way that's a little bit structured, I think that they're basically saying to you that they are not interested in the relationship at all because they should, out of respect for your needs and commitment to the relationship, be willing to try additional assistance if that makes the other party feel better, because that's essentially the core of a relationship, right? So that's my theory. I'm curious to see what you have to say about it. And then maybe we can explore some different types of couples therapy and see what's effective and just give people some ideas in case they want to try this out.
Yeah, I would also like to read the comments because you made a social media post about this and you got lots of feedback from people who either had been to couples therapy or had tried to get their partner to go and their partner didn't want to. And I really liked what they had to say. So I would love to hear from some of our listeners about that. And also when you say the couples, the man doesn't want to go. So these are all heterosexual couples.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And it's always, in your experience, been the male half of those couples that is not up for going to couples therapy and the woman wants to?
That's correct.
Okay.
I mean, I think that that's in general probably what goes on. I mean, let's be realistic. Guys aren't like, oh man, I can't wait to talk about my feelings.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure. But we
yeah.
can also be compassionate towards that because, there is a lot of stuff floating around there, ideas floating around in culture that men shouldn't talk about their feelings and that this makes them weak or gay or whatever negative thing that they that they put on it. And that is not true. I mean, talking about your feelings and being honest and vulnerable is essential for an intimate relationship. How are you going to become intimate with someone emotionally if you don't talk about that stuff? So, I mean, fellas or anybody who's listening, if you need some encouragement, do you want greater intimacy? Do you want better sex? Do you want more connection with your partner? Okay. If yes, then, talk about those feelings. That's my opinion on it. But anyone could be resistant to therapy. I think it's not fair to say that it's just men because I think people are resistant to going to both individual and couples therapy for all kinds of reasons, right? They're afraid of what they're going to find out. They're afraid it's going to be really uncomfortable as a process. And, that's valid. I think that maybe the first thing any good therapist does is listen to that resistance and just let the person get it out there. And then maybe once they're heard, they'll feel more open to actually participating in it.
Okay, so people can participate in therapy in a number of different ways. And again, I want to touch on that. But what if you get an idiot therapist, right? And I mean, there are some therapists that are idiots and they have their own, marriage problems that they're working out. They can't separate themselves from their own self. I could see some reticence because of finding a good practitioner. What do people do about that? Like, how do you navigate something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly possible to get an idiot therapist, but I would refer people to this saying about lawyers. Have you ever heard this? Like, he who represents himself in court has a fool for a client, right? Or has a fool for an attorney. And that's
either way,
right? It is a fool and has a fool as an attorney, right? So I would say that the same could potentially also apply to therapists, right? Like if you're bumbling around trying to figure it out on your own, chances are you're also not going to be successful because it hasn't worked out so far. You're still in conflict with your partner. So getting any kind of person who is a professional at this could potentially be really helpful if you've been unable to figure it out on your own.
Right. But what if the therapist sucks?
Well, you could try getting a new one. I mean, that's why you kind of shop around and talk to therapists and interview them and get free consultations. On Psychology Today and also this website, goodtherapy.org, they have like therapist finders where you can filter them and you can, look in your local area and find people who have specialties in marriage and family therapy or other things. You also don't have to go with a licensed therapist. There's lots of coaches out there who don't go through this traditional system of education and licensing for therapists, but they also could have something really valuable to contribute to helping you figure out your problems with your partner. So there's alternatives to, couples therapy. It's really just about what works for you, and don't be afraid to fire somebody if they're not working for you, any professional.
Okay, but let's back it up. What if the person simply refuses to go with you to therapy, but you want to go and you've sort of hit a wall? I mean, I would think that they're not willing to try anything. That means that they're not interested in the relationship in a real solid way. Is there a different way that that person can show participation that doesn't include some kind of mediation or training or, couple specific practice?
Yeah, I think if you've gotten to the point where you've hit a wall, if your partner you've tried everything you can to work out your problems with your partner on your own, you're at an impasse, you feel like there's no other options, you feel really stuck, and your partner says, no, I'm not willing to go to any kind of professional to get help with this and figure it out with you, they're saying, okay, the relationship is over for me. That's what they're saying. They're saying,
what I
would like to break up. Yeah. And if they don't think they need it.
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I think that means that they're not interested. Like there's no way that you can go forward from there because it shows a lack of respect to the other person. Even if you don't think that you need it, you should just go to be agreeable because you're at least showing that you're trying. I don't know. Can you even show a different way of trying? I don't think so.
Right. No, I mean, usually when people are considering going to couples therapy or counseling or a coach, they have tried everything they can think of on their own. And of course, right, because you always want to be able to solve your problems on your own if you can. You don't want to call in a professional plumber if it's just pouring some Drano down the drain by yourself, for $5. So I think people often view professionals as a last resort, unless they're being really, really proactive and they want to sort of, go for a wellness checkup just to nip any issues in the bud before they become big. But I think that's pretty rare. I think that most people have tried everything they can think of on their own before they go for a professional.
What if they meditated with their partner? That would, all right, this is like a silly example, but I want to play with this idea. Okay, let's say that the person is not willing to go to therapy, but they will partner with you and just do meditation in the same room, but no talking at all. Would that count? I don't think so, because I think the whole thing is an interaction in terms of talking. I mean, being with each other, okay, that's nice, but I don't think that meditating, I think that's like a singular activity.
Yeah, I think meditation can have lots of personal benefits, and it's a great complement to a healthy lifestyle or any kind of individual or couples therapy that you're doing, but it's not going to solve your problems that need to be hashed out and communicated between you and your partner. And I think what couples therapists do is help people hear each other, right? Because sometimes people just talk in a way that their partner can't hear for whatever reason, and the point doesn't get across, and there's like barriers that are built up. A professional is meant to break down those barriers and help you really hear one another in a way that you feel heard, your partner feels heard, and you can understand each other in a different way than you were able to just on your own.
Okay. What about like seminars? Do you, somebody had suggested to me this Alison Armstrong woman, and she has, Understanding Women seminars. And it sounds a little bit like it's in the vein of Women Are from Mars and Men Are from Venus, which I actually think is a very good book. I think it helps people communicate. But, what if your partner won't even do a book? Or, let's say therapy is out. Do you think that books sometimes are better? What other methods do you think there are that couples can try beside, going to a therapist that would show maybe that they are willing to try something?
Oh, this is a great question. I was actually in this exact situation with my ex. I was asking them to go to couples therapy with me. They sort of said yes, but then didn't take action on it. And then they said no. And then I asked, okay, will you at least read this book with me? No. Or yes, but not taking action on it. Okay, can we at least read this article about communication together and talk about it? And there was just resistance every step of the way. And so, I don't know, to me, that just said, all right, they've given up. I think that there are things you can do that are alternatives to therapy, but how long is it going to take for you to figure it out on your own? And could it be much more efficient if you had the help of a professional who does this every day and that's all they do? Right. And, I understand why people can be hesitant. Sometimes it's time, money, but sometimes those are just excuses too, right? What's really important to you? Is your relationship really important? Is your happiness really important? Sometimes people can go to couples therapy and realize that they should break up, and the therapist can help them separate in a, compassionate, kind, amicable way, especially if there's children involved. That's better than divorce lawyers, because they're not there to help you amicably separate. They're there to divide up your assets, right?
Yeah, and charge you a lot of money. What if one party thinks that they're perfect and the problem is wholly the part of the other person? So why should they have to go to therapy? What say you to that?
Yeah, I would say that's a huge red flag, because nobody is perfect. And the people, especially people who think that they're perfect, they are especially not perfect. If you know a little, sometimes you think you know everything. Nah. Once you find out more, you realize that you know nothing and you need to humble yourself. And so, at least for me, the type of person I would want to be in a relationship with does not believe that they are perfect and that there is literally nothing they can do to improve themselves or to get better, and that they shouldn't even try.
Yeah, I would like to be with somebody who is interested in growing with me. I think this is really what it boils down to is, how do people show that they're committed to something? So, what if somebody has already tried? They don't want to give up on their marriage, but their husband has said no to therapy. What do? Play them this episode? What's the solution? Any other ways to kind of soften it? Because, at first when you had made almost like, I would say, excuses slightly for men feeling, oh, they can't share their feelings. But I actually think that's a pretty legit thing. It makes them feel unsafe to open up. So, women are, I think, and yeah, I'm just talking generally, like women are going to be like, oh, he's a little baby, he needs to be coddled. But when is enough enough? How do you test those grounds a little?
Well, I think you sell it to a reluctant partner by saying, look, this is the end of the line for me. I'm really frustrated, and this
wow,
relationship.
That's harsh.
Well,
You
I mean, it
just
may
jump
be
right in. You're like, this is the end of the line.
Well, no, it's just waking them up to how serious this actually is, right? Because if they think that you might be unhappy, but you're not actually going to leave, what's their motivation to do anything about it? But if you say, all right, if you don't show me something here to meet me halfway, this relationship is over for me. This is how serious this is for me. So if you want this relationship to continue, come do this with me. Put in the effort to show me that you want to work through our issues, or we need to just split up, and you can sell it to them by saying, look, do you want to be heard? Do you want to experience really being listened to for maybe the first time in a really long time or in your life? Would you like for me to be able to hear you better about whatever you're upset about? Would you like greater intimacy between us? Would you like more happiness? I mean, who doesn't want that, right? And it maybe is a little uncomfortable to get there, but it needn't be, right? And the rewards are so great that if they can't see the benefits after you say something like that, then, they're done. I don't know how else to say it. They're saying, no, I don't want this relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So, buyer beware, everybody. Get ye self to a couples therapy class. Whatever thing that you can do. Okay, cool. So we have one other question, and what it is, I was telling you as we were getting started for the show, I'm like, oh man, I have so much to do. I really got to power through. Maybe I should get one of those Adderall thingies. And I don't do Adderall. I don't like pills or anything like that. So, but I was thinking, they prescribe that, right? And I got to stay awake. I got stuff to do. So how bad is that? How does that stack up to different street drugs? And, people do a lot of Adderall, Percocets, which I think gets a little bit crazier, even Vicodins, but people are popping these pills. And then you've got like street drugs. And I was thinking, if I took an Adderall, I'm almost like Silicon Valley. But, if I did a line of Coke, it's not like that great, So why is one thing worse than the other? And maybe cocaine is more organic. You don't know. So I'm not
organic cocaine.
I'm just saying, think about it, right? Cocaine is more organic than like a synthetic Adderall, right? You can change
At least it comes from a plant, right?
I mean, listen, I'm available, people. I have a marketing company, Crypto Media Hub. Give me a call. Anyway, is that what is the deal behind these kinds of street drugs versus these pharmaceutical drugs? Are any of them really safe? What if you do one once in a while? What happens? What's the deal?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to preface by saying just a standard disclaimer. This is not medical advice or anything like that. I am a doctor, but I have a PhD in biochemistry and half a medical degree. And this is just my own opinions. And I come from a standpoint of not encouraging people to do drugs, but just acknowledging that people do use various substances, legal, illegal, prescription, non-prescription. And humans have been doing that since the beginning of time. And I'm interested in harm reduction. So that's where I'm coming from with this. And when you said organic cocaine, Tatiana, I was thinking of, I have a friend who actually orders coca leaves, that the plant that cocaine it comes from, and cocaine is a highly refined form of the extract of that plant, but the leaves can be chewed, and they are actually chewed by people in the regions where this plant is indigenous. And, it gives you a little kick, apparently, just like coffee. I haven't tried it myself, but...
Can I order it online? Is it on Amazon?
Apparently, I don't know because I haven't looked into it, but as far as I knew, this friend was just ordering it online and it's completely legal or legit.
This could solve the problem right away. I could just get into a tea and then I'm not doing the real hard stuff, but I'm not, anyway, continue. So wait, is that healthy? What do you think?
Healthy is always a relative term, right? It depends on what your body is, what your needs are, and what you're trying to do. And of course, we all do things that aren't quote unquote healthy all the time, right? We take risks, we ride motorcycles, we have sex, we eat chocolate cake. And is that healthy? Not necessarily. So, not everything needs to be completely healthy, right? It's always your body, your choice. That's personal autonomy for you folks. But I would say that in general, drug prohibition creates harder, more refined, more concentrated forms of drugs that tend to come from natural sources like plants. It takes herbal medicines like cannabis or like the coca plant or even alcohol, and it turns it into, the need to have concentrated, easily transportable, potent forms of drugs is created by laws that prohibit drugs. And then more dangerous forms of those drugs come out because when you're using a more concentrated product, it's easier to overdose or get the dosing wrong, or you experience stronger effects. So, to me, that's what prohibition does. And something like cocaine versus the coca plant leaves is a great example of this. Now, as far as, the use of Adderall and drugs like that, which are for ADHD, right? In people who have ADHD brains, this helps them focus. There have also been amphetamines used in medicine for many, many different other reasons, including doctors used to prescribe them for weight loss, right? They would give them to people to help them lose weight because they do kind of suppress your appetite and make you lose weight. But there are lots of side effects, rapid heartbeat and hyperactivity, difficulty sleeping. This can be very dangerous for your cardiovascular system. And so, recreational use of those kinds of drugs can have the same kinds of side effects. And I think when you're burning the candle at both ends, you're going to burn out. And that's really important to remember. If you're seeking out stimulant kind of drugs just to get through the day or to get things done, maybe it's time to take a look at your schedule and your priorities and just think, this isn't going to be good for me long term. Something's got to give. Is there something I can say no to? Is there something I can decrease so that I don't have to stress out my body? Because it's almost like you're borrowing energy from later and you have to pay it back at some point.
Okay, I think that's a fair point.
That's my holistic advice about stimulants.
No, that's fine. And I hear you.
And by the way, I say this as an addict to one of the most socially acceptable drugs, which is caffeine. I don't drink coffee, but I drink tea every day. I used to be much more addicted to it until I heard someone on a podcast talking about this, about caffeine use and how it can really mess up people's sleep patterns and mess up their bodies. And I started, taking an uncomfortable but hard look at my own caffeine use and thinking, is this really working for me? And I cut back a lot. So now I have specific limits. I have a time of day where I cut myself off. I have an amount of caffeine that I consume per day, and I don't go above that threshold. And it's a manageable addiction at this point, and it helps me function.
Yeah, well, coffee is the really big, scary caffeine deliverer, but I like to have herbal tea often. So I don't know. I don't really do a lot of caffeine. I feel grateful for that because I feel, I'm always really awake in the morning, and then I meet all these people that are really, really grumpy until they have their coffee, and they're really not very nice to be around because I'm a little ray of sunshine and they want me to die and leave the room.
Oh, those coffee people. I know what you mean.
No, they don't really care for a little bit of sunshine yet, so I don't know. So what would you say? So if people are doing that, they should probably slow down. What are some natural alternatives to wake yourself up? Okay, so
exercise,
go around the block,
getting enough sleep.
Right?
There are a lot of health experts, and I tend to agree with this, that, if it's possible for you, try to go to sleep by 10 p.m. Sleep in a dark room, put on a blindfold, put on some earplugs, whatever you need to do to get good quality sleep. Make your bedroom a little cooler, darken the shades.
Blindfold
really focus.
Sounds a little bit kinky.
It can be.
What you call it?
It can be.
It's the one that goes to bed at night, just like the regular one, not a blindfold. I think that's like something else.
An eye mask?
Sounds like, get prepared. Yes, an eye mask. That sounds more appropriate for sleep.
Well, it is always great to have an orgasm before you go to sleep too. That sometimes makes people sleepy. So, maybe you could use your eye mask as a blindfold too. But I would say just focusing on your sleep hygiene is an alternative to stimulant drugs in the morning. And I know you probably hear that advice a lot. And some people are rolling their eyes and saying, I just can't. I have insomnia. I have this. I have that. I have noisy neighbors. I have animals. I have diabetes waking me up in the middle of the night, whatever, and I'm not trying to say that there's something wrong with you or that you should definitely be able to do that. But obviously, if you're able to put some attention into your sleep hygiene, you're just going to feel better, no matter what the status of your body or what health conditions you have or don't have.
All right, fine. So basically, stop abusing your body and be healthy. My advice is
I wouldn't say it like that because that sounds kind of shaming, right? But
yours is just Pollyanna advice, well, then just clear your schedule, darling, and have the maid do it.
I know, and I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to follow that advice, but sometimes you just need to go back to basics, right? Sometimes we just need to remember we're human beings. We're evolved to wake up with the sun and sleep when it's dark, and we need sleep, food, and water. And those are pretty much like the cornerstones of health. And we need stress relief. And, it's so easy to get out of control with our lives nowadays, where we can have our attention pulled in a million different directions. But some mindfulness and some intentionality really helps no matter what your health is like. And stress exacerbates any health condition, no matter what it is. And so you can always benefit from reducing your stress and from simplifying your life.
Okay, I appreciate all of that, but I'm giving you a lightning round. Okay. So it's coffee versus tea. Obviously, choose tea, right?
No, I would say choose. Okay, coffee versus tea versus Adderall. I would say choose coffee or tea.
No. Okay, we're going cocaine versus Adderall, tea versus coffee.
I don't even know what to say. It depends.
Don't laugh, Dr. Murphy. This is serious stuff.
It depends on you and what you like. I have seen studies about both tea and coffee that say that they are beneficial for Alzheimer's disease, dementia, cardioprotective effects, diabetes. The studies are kind of mixed about coffee. Some studies say that coffee protects against Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease and diabetes. Some studies say that coffee makes some of those things worse. And now I think if you're eating coffee with a ton of sugar dumped in it, then it probably is not going to help with diabetes. And maybe that's confounding some of those studies. But the point is that there are studies that say coffee is good for you. And there are also studies that say tea, especially green tea or black tea, doesn't really matter which, is good for you too. Maybe they are. But people, tea is a classic staple of the human diet. People have been consuming tea and also coffee for thousands of years, right? I don't know about thousands of years for coffee, but tea definitely for thousands of years. People have been putting leaves in hot water for many years and then drinking the water that tastes like the leaves. And sometimes it makes you feel funny.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so one final question. I'm going to let you off the hook with this question, even though I don't feel like you chose of the more dangerous substances, which would be worse, which I think is a worthwhile exploration. Okay, let's say somebody has done a bunch of damage to their body. They haven't been taking their naps. They've been like burning the candle at both ends. Are there like supplements or kind of quick fixes that they can use? Obviously, there's no quick fix. You should start meditating and, become a perfect person. But let's say you're a person that occasionally overindulges. They say, oh, you should get vitamin B or a Bloody Mary or, what are there for people who have been, partying?
Yeah. So for people who have had long-term fatigue, there are several herbs. What? What's funny?
That long-term fatigue. I'm trying to tell you that there's people that are in the industry. They'll go out partying and stuff. And I think that they're probably listening to this show and you're like, oh, well, they've just been a little bit tired.
You don't think fine. I get it? I mean,
okay, no, but you sound so like that's what you'd be like as a doctor, oh, your wild behavior is acceptable with this medical term over long fatigue or whatever.
Well, hey, there's no judgment here. I think literally everybody has some periods of time where they're kind of just stressing out their body and burning themselves out with lots of work or something they're trying to do, or even lots of partying. And there's no judgment from me on that. And that's why I call it
you're a great doctor.
Oh, thank you. That's why I call it long-term fatigue, because, that's just the way to describe it that I can think of. So, but if you've had that, there are a number of herbs that are called adaptogenic herbs that they help the body adapt to stress. And what they're doing is supporting the production of hormones in your adrenal glands. Like, for example, in women, this is a big problem. When women are getting periods and cycling, they need to produce progesterone to balance out the estrogen in their body. And that's produced, some of it's produced by the adrenal glands. And if you're making a lot of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which is also produced by your adrenal glands, your body steals the precursor, the starting material from the progesterone pathway to make cortisol. And then you don't have enough progesterone. And then you get worse symptoms of PMS. So you can take some herbs that will support that, and also B vitamins that are catalysts for the biosynthetic pathway for progesterone. And it's not just with progesterone, it's with other hormones too. It works for anybody, regardless of menopause or gender, sex, any of that. There's herbs like ashwagandha, which support the body's response to stress and recovering from stress. Tulsi or holy basil is another one that's widely cited as an adaptogenic herb. Anything that decreases inflammation, so like fish oil, omega-3, supplements. There's also vegetarian sources like ALA, right, that comes from walnuts and flax seeds, and also B vitamins, because you need those to both burn fat for energy and you need them to create hormones that your body uses to be resilient in times of stress. So, you can get lots of supplement blends that contain all of those things, adaptogenic herbs and B vitamins and minerals, or you can just, pick up some stress relief tea. This could be helpful, just an herbal tea. But really the response to stress has to be, I think, taking a step back and saying, what are the root causes of this stress in my life? And whatever you can do to address those is going to be the most beneficial thing in the long term, regardless of what supplements you take.
Okay. I like that idea. Basically, listen to the show, take good care of yourselves, everybody. I think this was a very good breakdown. I was looking up those herbs while you were talking, just because I travel a lot. So I get tired from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I find even if I'm not drinking or something at a conference, I still get really, really worn down. So can this stuff be used for, conference support?
Yeah. And I would also add for if you need immune support, like if you're at a conference and there's a cough or there's a cold or crud going around, or if you're just exposed to germs on an airplane, there's lots of things you can do for that, lots of herbal supplements. Mushrooms of all different types are known to boost the immune system. They don't know exactly how that works, but any kind of mushrooms, whether eating them or taking some kind of mushroom supplement. And also elderberry syrup is great in the winter for, it has some kind of interaction with the microbiome in your guts, apparently, that produces something that boosts your immune system. Also, echinacea raises the count of white blood cells. Body, you should not take that long term. Usually it says on the package, don't take it for more than 2 weeks or something. But all of those can be kind of short-term immune support if you're in a challenging environment like an airplane or a conference.
Isn't there one brand that you like? Which one is that?
I don't want to recommend any brands or anything like that. Yeah. But,
that's fair. Check it out. You've got Amazon, everybody. So anywho, all right. I like this episode. I think it was very informative. Been really awesome being on the show with just Stephanie and I today. Or going to be doing really great having Stephanie and Lauren on the show today. We love that you guys are listening to Proof of Love. We come out on Fridays. proofoflovecast.com is the website. If you like this show, check out thetatianashow.com or Let's Talk Bitcoin. Stephanie's one of the hosts on that as well, so you can learn a little bit about crypto. And then we'll see you guys next time on Proof of Love.
Awesome.
Show me your heart. I know that it's beating. Tell me that you love me too. So I know your heart is true. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. 'Cause I need some proof of love. Thank you for listening to Proof of Love. Please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Proof of Lovecast. More episodes can be found at proofoflovecast.com. And make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. Proof of Love has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond.